Cool. Well, let's get started. If you have any questions, you can type them in the Q&A thing. There's a little, if you hover at the bottom, there's a little bar that says Q&A. You can just type in questions there. Dana is going to be moderating and asking me questions, and I will be answering. The session is being recorded. It won't be published publicly, but it'll probably be sent out to the same group that got the invite to this webinar, which is all of the kind of high spend advanced sellers that use Prestozon.
All right, so if you have questions, feel free to enter them in the Q&A area now. And all right, we have our first question. Great. So I'll be asking Ben the questions, and then the first question is from Sandip. He asks, or she asks, is it a good idea to create campaigns using profitable terms from research campaigns and automatic campaigns? Or should we optimize the research campaigns to achieve target ACoS?
So this is a good question. You definitely want to split them. The main reason we recommend having research campaigns and performance campaigns is for budget control. Amazon only allows you to set your budget at the campaign level, not the ad group level. So as you extract performance from research and auto campaigns and put that into performance, you can scale up the performance campaigns without having to also spend money on doing more research. If you try to optimize your research campaigns, when you try to scale them up, you end up spending a lot of money both on the high performance stuff and on the research. And at some point, the research gets really expensive because you found all of the high performance search terms. And so you just end up spending a ton of money without getting much in return. So definitely split them between research and performance. And then as you extract the value out of the research and auto campaigns by finding all of the search terms that work, scale those down. So decrease the budget, decrease the bids, decrease the default bid, and then scale up your performance campaign by doing bid management, preferably through Prestozon automation, and then scaling up your budgets there.
Great. Okay, Anonymous asks, what is a good range of conversion rates for ads in your experience?
It really depends. Main thing it depends on is your cost per click and your average order value. Because what happens is your ACoS is dictated by basically those things. You know, how many clicks convert and how much is each conversion worth. And so for really inexpensive items, you need a really high conversion rate to have any reasonable ACoS. The more expensive items get, the lower the conversion rate gets generally. So if you're selling like a $200 item, you're not going to have generally like a 10% conversion rate. You might though, and that's when you can do really cool things with advertising. But I'd say for like non-branded terms, you generally see between like 5 and 15% for pretty solid performing campaigns. For some in really competitive markets, less than 5% is really common. And then for branded terms, you can see anything up to like 50%. And that's pretty common just because if people are looking for your brand, then they click on an ad, they're probably going to buy it. And then with that, you get ACoSs of like, 1 or 2%. But you just have to be aware that those are branded terms, and so you may have gotten the sale anyway. But what definitely didn't happen was because you got that placement, your competitor didn't get that placement. So it's more of like a defensive spending strategy.
Ben, would you recommend having separate campaigns and campaign structures for branded and non-branded terms for this reason?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I see pretty commonly is people have a lot more branded search than they realize, and the branded search is really driving their account level ACoS. And so maybe like half of their sales come from branded search, and that's all at 1 or 2% ACoS. And then that makes it look like their campaign's performing at maybe 10% ACoS, but the rest of the stuff is performing at 20% to 50%, but it's just completely outweighed by the branded search. So if you split them so that the branded search is in one place and the non-branded search is in another place, then you can control how much you're spending on each and get a better idea of where your money's going and where your sales are coming from.
Awesome. Okay, next question from James. Exact campaigns for new products. Should we start with the 30 best keywords or just load it with as many keywords as we can find? For example, 300. We found that when we do the latter, it gets really expensive really fast because Prestozon is raising bids to get enough data on all those keywords, presumably. So.
Yeah, so I don't actually recommend seeding exact campaigns with any keywords. I recommend starting off with broader phrase campaigns so you can look for the search terms that are going to work, that are going to convert. It's true that Prestozon's automation will try to find impressions and clicks and sales for stuff. And so we have a great blog post, Dana, maybe you can link to it, called like how and when to use automation. And that goes into setting research budgets and how you should go about exploring the search term space for a new product. Basically, you want to start with the top couple to begin with that you think are definitely going to convert, and that will help you isolate the best performing search terms first, and then you can move those over to an exact campaign and scale them up as you continue doing research on longer tail stuff. It just, the way these things work, the first couple are pretty easy to find. You may only have to spend like, $50 in advertising to find a couple search terms that convert. The next 100 search terms are going to cost a lot more. So they may cost $50 each, or, even like towards the end, they may cost like $100 each or more. And so if you have several hundred that you're trying to find, that becomes thousands or tens of thousands of dollars very quickly. So I guess the flow here is take your top keywords that you used to, write your title and your bullets and, the main ones that are relevant for your product. Start those as a broad or phrase keyword in a research group. And then as you find out which search terms get sales, move those to an exact campaign and only use automation on the exact campaign. Using automation on a research campaign will work. It will find you a lot of search terms, but just because of the way these things work, it gets very expensive.
All right, awesome. We have a question in the chat. We actually have a number of questions in the chat. So just a reminder to everybody, if you have a question, if you could put it in the Q&A section, which is down at the bottom. We'd like to keep the chat for kind of just chatter and responses, so we can keep the questions in order and organized. No big deal, but if you can, please put it in the Q&A. It's a little confusing that we have two areas to communicate. But here we have from Slim Joanna Sar. Regarding bid suggestions. Oh no, we already answered that one, I think. No, we didn't. Regarding bid suggestions, if I have a target ACoS of 30%, but the keywords are performing less than that, less than 30%, at what stage does the bid suggestions come in to increase bid? Are there certain parameters that need to be met before the suggestions are visible?
So as soon as we see sales coming in at lower than the target A costs, we generally recommend increasing the bid, and that will show up as a bid suggestion. Just a reminder that if you have automation on, these suggestions are applied automatically, and so you won't see them as suggestions. They just get applied. The one case we don't recommend making an increase is if your bid is already way higher than the CPC. So let's say you have a bid of $2, but the CPC is coming in at $1. Increasing your bid to $2.50 won't actually get you any more volume, and it tends to just put upward pressure on the price of that search term. So that means, like, you know, if you were to increase your bid, then your competitor may increase their bid, and then you get into this bidding war that nobody actually ends up winning. Everybody just increases their A cost. So if you're already way higher than the CPC, you're probably winning as much volume as you can, and we don't recommend increasing the bid there. But if you're within, or if the CPC is within 80% of the bid, then we do recommend increasing the bid, and that will show up pretty quickly after you get a sale on a keyword.
Cool. And a follow-up on that, what rule needs to be set to push working keywords in the research campaigns to the performance campaign? Right now, I follow the blog post that pulls converted keywords from exact to performance and phrase to research, and then negatives them out in automatic. I'm not seeing how it moves from research to performance.
So if you go into the suggestions tab in Prestozon and go to the keywords tab within that, you'll see any suggestions for search terms that made a sale. If those keywords already exist in the exact campaign, you won't see a suggestion for them. But if it's a brand new performance campaign and you set up a brand new rule, then you definitely should see suggestions there for anything that's getting a sale, provided the research and auto campaigns are set to source. There's a little checkbox in the rule that you need to make sure is checked, so it looks for search terms in those campaigns. As long as that's set, then you'll get suggestions. If that's not true, then open a support ticket and we can take a look at it. But so far, this part of Prestozon has been pretty reliable. So I'd expect that you should be getting suggestions in that keyword suggestion tab.
Awesome. Well, everybody, those are actually all of our questions. So we'll take a few minutes here and give you some time to enter more questions if you have them. Otherwise, sounds like people are doing pretty well, and we will be back here in another couple of weeks.
You know, Dana, maybe we could take this time to talk about one-click setup.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea. Although we have another question that just came in. So,
Couple questions. Let's talk about one-click setup as more questions come in, and then we can answer these questions.
Great idea. Sounds good.
Do you want to do that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I can take that, and then you can add anything you want. So we have a new feature coming very soon. Don't like to give dates because of the nature of software development, as I'm sure you are all probably aware, but I'm pretty excited about it. It's called One-Click Setup, and it's a tool where you can enter your products and then a couple parameters, and then Prestozon will set up a whole campaign structure for you and the rules to move keywords in that campaign structure. So for example, if you just launched a new line of magician's hats, for example, to use our Prestozon example, you will want to set up an automatic, a research, and a performance campaign, at least according to our best practices and our recommendations. So you can set up our recommended structure along with the rules to move keywords in that within that structure in one click using this new one-click setup. So it's useful when you're launching new products. It's also useful if you want to restructure existing campaigns and kind of just start fresh. So we're really excited about it. We think it's really powerful, and we're looking forward to bringing it to all of you. Ben, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I'm just seeing if I can get the demo up right now, and we could do a little screen share.
Good idea.
Yeah, okay. I think I can share my screen here. All right, can everybody see this? Dana, can you see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, great. Okay, so it's a little button right here, set up campaigns. You click that button and type in what you want. So we're going to call this Magic Hat. And then the SKUs that you want to advertise, and like hat 1, hat 2, these are the SKUs in your Amazon inventory. And then some seed research keywords. Again, you want to keep this list kind of short, maybe put in like, 10 or 20. So maybe like magician's hat, top hat, black top hat. And then if you have any that are really important, you can never know if something's going to convert, but you might know that some of these keywords are super important and you want to rank for them even if they cost you a lot of money. And maybe those you could add here. Maybe put the same ones there. And you can see how this all popped up over here. So now we have 3 campaigns that we're going to start: auto, research, performance, and then all of the correct structure here. So 2 ads in each one. There's just 1 ad group in each campaign. And then we have some negative phrase and negative exact in the auto. We've got some broad and exact, or negative exact, in the research. And then we have exact match in the performance. And then we also set up these rules. So this is the correct way to set up a new keyword rule, and then the negative keyword rule. And then there are some other options and advanced options that you have, and you can set budgets and ACoS targets and things. And then turn on the automation as soon as this is created. You just hit create structure, and then all of this gets sent to Amazon, and you have these 3 new campaigns running along with all the rules. So 1 click and all of that hard work is done. It should make it really easy to set up new products and, like Dana said, restructure old ones that maybe had a different structure previously, or just got messy over time. If you have any feedback on that, put that in the chat. We're super excited about this. We've been wanting to release something like this for a long time, and just super, super excited to get it in the hands of all of you.
Yep. Awesome. Oh, Ian, cool. Ian says it looks neat. I'm excited to set up campaigns in Prestozon as opposed to Seller Central. Yes, us too. All right, let's see here. Ben, do you want to jump into some of the other questions?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. All right, so we have a question from Sandip. If we create so-called performance campaigns by extracting terms from research campaigns and auto campaigns, should we reduce the bids in the first campaign, or should we remove those terms from there, or should we just let it be?
I always recommend negativing them in the research campaigns. This is our main strategy of search term isolation. If you let them be, in the research campaigns, then you end up having search terms that show up in two places, and Amazon will just kind of pick one, and that's where your search term exposure will go. And I'll try to give a quick example of where this can go wrong. Let's say you have a bit, let's say top hat is a broad keyword in the research campaign, and you get a sale for black top hat. And so now you want to move the search term black top hat and create it as a keyword in your performance campaign because you know it converts. Let's say top hat, the broad keyword in the research campaign, was set to a $1 bid. But black top hat ended up converting above your ACoS target. So we don't want to set a $1 bid for black top hat. We want to set it at like 50 cents. If you don't create a negative for black top hat in your research campaign, because the broad keyword top hat has a higher bid than your new black top hat exact match keyword, Amazon will still send all of the traffic for black top hat, the search term, to the broad keyword. And so you didn't actually end up doing anything by moving this search term into an exact match keyword in your performance campaign. It just kind of made your account messier. But if you negative black top hat, negative exact in the research campaign, then Amazon will send all of the search term traffic for black top hat to the exact match keyword. And this gives you control over what you're spending on clicks for black top hat. It's absolutely critical to have keywords or have search terms only showing up in one place if you want to use bids to control your performance. If you don't really, for some reason, don't want to use bids to control performance, then you can do whatever you want. But I think pretty much everybody I've ever talked to wants bid changes to work and wants bid changes to actually have a positive impact on their account. So move it over to the performance, negative it in research and auto, and then you can have some control over performance with bid.
Awesome. Okay, Ian asks, should you take out high performance keywords out of the research campaign if it does well as an exact match in the performance campaign, which I think.
So I think this is a little bit different. That it's really critical to understand the difference between keywords and search terms. So the reason we recommend having even for the same text, say top hat, you can have that as a broad match and a negative exact match in the same campaign or same ad group. And what that does is allows your research campaign to search for all of the long tail variants of top hat without actually getting any exposure to the exact match of top hat. So let's kind of redo this example a little bit. So let's say you just have a research campaign going and the only keyword in it is top hat, and it's a broad match. And then the search term top hat makes a sale. You can move that over to your performance campaign and then negative exact that in your research campaign. And now your research campaign will only get exposure to things like black top hat or big top hat or whatever, but it won't get any exposure to the exact match top hat. That will all go to your performance campaign.
Okay, great. So Slim says, I'm using phrase instead of broad in the research campaign. Is it better to use broad or phrase?
It really depends on your products. Phrase is definitely a little bit more focused than broad. If you know what you're going after, or if your products have a huge number of search terms, I'm talking like cell phone cases are the worst for this. So like if you're selling cell phone cases, there's, all of the model numbers, lots of colors, stuff like that. So especially if you're selling something that that's like model specific. So maybe you sell an iPhone 8 case. You definitely don't want to be showing up for iPhone 6, iPhone 6S. I don't even know all the iPhone models, but like you don't want to be showing up for all the other ones. And so you want to focus your research a little bit more. That's a good time to use phrase match. I mean, I've seen keywords that get exposure to hundreds or more search terms, and that makes it pretty challenging to do focused research. Because if you're trying to, like we go through in our how and when to use Prestozon automation post, you know, every search term that you want to research fully costs you 1 over the conversion rate. Or like it costs you 1 over the click-through rate times the CPC to fully research it. So if you have a 10% click-through rate and you need 10 clicks because you on average have a 10% conversion rate as well to see if something converts, that might be like, you know, in cell phones, you have maybe a $3 CPC. And so that could be $30 per search term to fully research something. And if you're showing up for thousands of search terms, you know, $3 or $30 times thousands is a lot of money. So you want to focus your research as, you know, as precisely as possible. And in that case, using phrase is good. If you have a brand new product that you've never sold before, and it's in a niche that has fewer relevant search terms, then I would suggest using broad, because you want kind of broader exposure and you want to figure out what people are searching for, and you don't know the market. So you might be surprised by some of the stuff that comes up. And in that case, broad's pretty good.
Awesome. James says, this is awesome. It will make things so much easier for us. Awesome. He also says, once Prestozon has bid down a keyword in an automated performance campaign, will it try to bid up this keyword again in the future?
It's possible that it will. This isn't always a bad thing. Sometimes the market shifts and the things people search on change, or maybe you've improved your listing since the bid has been bid down, and maybe you have a better conversion rate on it now. You won't know until you test it out. Generally, it's pretty slow to bid things back up, so which is also fine, because you don't want to just kind of keep oscillating around for keywords that you're not sure are going to work properly. So you can kind of consider that as doing more research and you know, retesting things. It doesn't end up usually costing a lot of money, because if it doesn't perform, then Prestozon will bid it back down. So you end up spending a little bit of money to just test it out again, and then it gets bid back down, and then you end up spending no more money on it. So it will do that, but it's pretty conservative on that, I would say.
Great. And then our last question is from Slim. Should you, over time, expect a higher ACoS on automatic campaigns, since you filter out all working keywords to research and performance campaigns?
Yes. Auto campaigns and research campaigns, ACoS will go up. This is expected and normal, and this is one of the reasons why breaking things out at the campaign level is really critical, like I touched on earlier, where you have budget control at the campaign level. As the ACoS goes up on auto and research campaigns, you just scale the budgets down. And then hopefully your performance campaign is performing, and you can scale the budget up there. And overall, for this product or product group, you end up spending a similar amount of money or more money, but at a higher performance and a more predictable and controllable, or on a predictable and more controllable set of search terms. So it's, yeah, the ACoS will go up for those two campaigns, but that's totally fine. The one thing that can be a little bit more tricky with auto campaigns is that Amazon currently doesn't give us any control over which product details pages they show your product for through the auto campaign. So on a details page, there is a section called sponsored products related to this item. And when you show up there, Amazon gives you or reports an ASIN in the search term report. So if you see ASINs in the Prestozon Search Term Explorer or in your Amazon search term report, that's the placement, is that sponsored products related to this item. And they don't give you any control over where you show up. You can't target specific pages, and you can't negative specific pages either. And so some products tend to get a lot of volume from that placement. For some reason, Amazon likes placing some products on details pages more than others. And if a significant amount of your volume comes from that, then you definitely want to pay attention to your default bid and your budget on your auto campaign. Most of the time, I don't see these working too well. So you end up spending a lot of money to get placed on these ASINs, but don't have any control over it. And it ends up leading to a high A cost. And in that case, just reduce your budget, reduce your default bid, you'll be fine. We hope that Amazon gives advertisers more control over this in the future, perhaps getting to target specific pages, or bidding, being able to bid on how much each, differently for each details page, because some work well and some don't. But right now you don't have a lot of control over it.
Great. And then another question from Slim: if a yellow product is advertised and clicked on, but someone buys the blue, which color gets the result of a sale in analytics?
So Amazon reports this as a sale for that keyword and that search term. We don't know which SKU sold because of that click, but it does get included in analytics. So yeah, there's actually nowhere in Amazon that you can tell which product sold as the result of a specific click. In Seller Central, they will tell you, at the ad group level, which SKUs sold and how many, but they don't ever relate this to a specific keyword or a specific search term. So it's a little bit tricky. We wish they gave us more detailed information there, because that would be really useful. But right now we're kind of like everybody's flying blind.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all of our questions. Thank you everybody so much for coming and asking these great questions. I wanted to mention that in the chat, I put a few links to relevant blog posts that we talked about regarding search term isolation and when to use automation. So check those out if that sounds good. And like Ben mentioned, we'll be sending this recording out to you and anyone in the high spend category for Prestozon. So thanks again. Ben, did you want to add anything?
No, just great questions. Thanks for asking all these questions. And if you have any feedback on these sessions in particular, things that you would like to see in these sessions, or a different way we could run them, or even if a different timing would work better for you, just send us an email. Either respond to the email that went out for this session, or you can always email team@prestozon.com.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.